Good morning. Most of you are probably wondering who I am. My name is Ellie Jufray. I have two children who attend collegiate, Sophia, who is a sophomore, and Jack, who is in the 7th grade. When Anna first asked me to introduce her this morning, I wasn't sure how I was going to put this speech together. Should it be funny or serious? Would people laugh with me or at me? I figured I'm just going to write the best way I know how, so here it goes. I first met Anna and her family many, many years ago through our mutual love for horses. I have watched her grow up at the barn, from a little pipsqueak to a slightly taller pipsqueak. We have our inside jokes and have shared many laughs together, sometimes at the expense of others and sometimes at the expense of ourselves. I am often mistaken for being Anna's mom, especially in the horse world. I am often approached at horse shows and congratulated on my daughter's great ride. And in the beginning I was a little confused because Sophia was not showing in the same division. So I would say, "Thank you," but my daughter wasn't in that class. After it happened several times, I finally figured it out. All these people think I'm Anna's mom because we're both Asian. While I'm Korean American and Anna is Chinese American, it doesn't matter to them because we all look alike. So I decided I wasn't going to fight it, and instead I was going to embrace it and start messing with people's heads. And that's how I became Anna's other mom. As Anna's other mom, I have watched her become a big sister to my children. My daughter Sophia first came to collegiate as a freshman, and I was really nervous for her because she did not know anyone in the freshman class. Anna told me not to worry, that she would watch after So, and that meant the world to me. It was at that moment I saw another side of Anna. She had matured before my eyes. Anna, I am so proud of the young lady you have become. You are kind and compassionate, and a true blessing to your parents, Robin and Wayne. I've enjoyed being your other mom, and I will always be here for you. Always let your light shine in everything you do. It is my privilege to introduce to you Anna Rogers-Daub.
A widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. This is what comes up when you Google search stereotypes. Stereotypes will always exist because people are judgmental. It's human nature. Stereotypes can be seen as both positive and negative things. What makes stereotypes so hurtful is you are being judged by outside things that you cannot control. Stereotypes are present in our everyday life, even in our collegiate community. Simple stereotypes like, "Oh yeah, she's a dumb blonde," or "Oh, that person is just an outcast," or "They're just really weird." It can have a bigger effect on people than you might think. After a while, you may start to believe what everyone else stereotypes you as. You could start to limit yourself or put certain standards upon yourself that you have to live up to. At collegiate, there is a certain standard and stereotype of the kind of students here. This can be seen as both good and bad. Everyone's thought of what a typical collegiate student is like is different. I always think about a straight-A student with great extracurricular activities and follows all the cornerstones. But let's be realistic. Not everyone is going to have amazing grades and is always on their best behavior. However, I find myself stressing or overloading my schedule sometimes, trying to live up to what I think is a collegiate student. But at the same time, this idea of a stereotypical collegiate student pushes me to do my best. Another stereotype that is always present in my life is Asian stereotypes. 2 summers ago, I went on the school trip to China. On this trip, I realized that I was caught somewhere in between. We traveled to 4 different cities, but our stay in Rogers-Daub was an experience that created many emotions for me. We stayed with a Chinese host family for 5 days. Staying with a host family and visiting different schools forced me to step outside of my comfort zone. While in Rogers-Daub, I felt like an outsider looking in. I looked Asian and felt that I should fit in. Instead, I was an Asian dressed like an American. If the way I dressed wasn't already a red flag, the fact that I spoke English, not Chinese, certainly grabbed people's attention. Even though I was dressed as an American, many Chinese assumed that I would still speak Chinese fluently. I distinctly remember visiting schools in China. Palms sweaty, hands shaking, thoughts of what to expect. Thoughts of what to expect. Jack, if it's a
Jack, you're everywhere.
calm, sweaty, hands shaking, thoughts of what to expect raced through my mind as I stepped into the classroom. I heard whispers. Is she American? I could faintly hear the sound of my heart beating. A girl raised her hand and directed a question towards me. Are you American? And do you think China or America is your homeland? Her question had caught me off guard. I was at home both in China as well as a visitor. I felt that I was disappointing my host family and all other Chinese people because to Asian culture standards, I was way below theirs. I felt that they had expected me to speak fluently. All of a sudden, I didn't know where I belonged. I felt a connection to China because I am Chinese, but I felt more like an American because that's the culture in which I was raised. In China, at times I was ashamed to be considered part American. But back here in Kentucky, I sometimes feel ashamed to be Chinese. Other times, I'm confident about who I am. I guess you could say I'm somewhere in between. And this brings me back to the idea of when do stereotypes start to limit our ability to express yourself, to cause us to lose some of our personal identity. Another stereotype that I deal with about Asians is that we're all related to each other, which brings me to my special relationship with Ellie. Her parents immigrated from Korea and she was born in California. Before I met Ellie, I didn't really know any other adults that were Asian. Ellie has helped me to learn to deal with racist situations and to embrace my Asian culture. I met Ellie through Signature Stables, which is the barn both of our families ride with. When I first started showing horses, people would go to Ellie and congratulate her on her daughter's ride. Ellie was confused because Sophia hadn't shown. We eventually caught on that they thought I was Ellie's daughter. Instead of making it some negative situation, we make jokes about it all the time. Sometimes we'll point to my mom and dad, who don't look anything like me. My mom's got light brown hair, my dad's bald. And we tell them that those are our parents. We normally get some confused expressions, and then they just decide to move on. And a few weeks ago, my family, Ellie's family, and some other families, or another family that doesn't go to collegiate, went camping at Jellystone. And one night, when all the other kids were working in the haunted forest, I decided to stay behind and hang out with Ellie. I taught her how to use the new Snapchat, and so we basically spent the majority of the night Snapchatting Caroline Fleming. I taught her how to use other things on her phones too. I hadn't laughed that hard that night in a long time. And although Ellie isn't really my mom, and Sophia isn't really my sister, I consider them just that. They are my second family. Another big stereotype in my life is the fact that I have to take medicine for my ADD. What's worse about being labeled by others is how over time, you start to begin to stereotype yourself, and you believe what others are calling you. In the past, still sometimes today, I won't try as hard or I'll procrastinate, because I figure with ADD, I'll try to do my schoolwork, but I'll end up just procrastinating anyway, so why not just wait till the last minute? Or sometimes I get the idea that most people think I'll be dumb, because I don't pay attention as well. That's sometimes true. Sometimes I'll blame things on my ADD too, when really I'm just being lazy. I've allowed myself to be lazy and not live up to my full potential sometimes, because I try to fit myself as a stereotypical ADD person. But what makes senior speeches so hard is we stereotype what a great senior speech should be like. We expect someone to get up here and share some big life-altering lesson or experience. But let's be honest, most of us in this room probably haven't had that experience, or that big life-learned lesson, which is okay. Sometimes it's the little things that have the biggest impact on us, or make the best stories. Queen Rania of Jordan said, we shouldn't judge people through the prism of our own stereotypes.